Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé, Jorge and Anfisa. Let's watch.
And on my way to work, she told me that she had done something to my second car.
Okay, so now we're finding that she is harming his property, which in the midst of everything else we've seen, I don't know their relationship, but if someone described to me all the different elements of this, that would be absolutely another indication of abuse. Of, if you don't obey me, I will get you one way or another. I'll destroy your things. And with heterosexual relationships, when the wife is the abusive one, it can absolutely be classic, like the way you would imagine in your mind of hitting someone, pushing someone down the stairs, showing up with a gun or a knife or something like that. It can, but it often is more likely this sort of behavior. It's verbal, it's destroying property, it's invading your space, invading your phone, this kind of thing. So she has harmed this other car. I don't know what that means, and I'm not saying she's abusive. I don't know, but it's awful. And I think that I feel like I need to state this out loud because this relationship is so far over here in terms of what their normal is that I feel like I'll slip into creeping normalcy, in terms of normalcy shift, that I will lose sight of what's happening, which is, something truly awful. Now, she might have a lot of relational traumas that explains all this, but, I feel like I need to say that out loud.
Women are crazy.
Okay, and then he says that. So that I've been waiting for other evidence of misogyny from him. In the beginning of the season, when we first saw him, he was talking about a lot of these things, anti-feminism. I can't date American women because feminism ruined. I went on a long discussion about incels and MGTOW and the red pill people and the manosphere and all the pain that they're in, but the cult that they have been sucked into that teaches them very convenient lies to justify how they feel and lead them astray. And so, and of course, toxic masculinity and misogyny are a larger representation, more long-standing similar phenomenon as that. And so that notion of just like, women are crazy, and where does that come from? I don't know where it comes from him, but I'll tell you in my own clinical life and personal life, when I hear that, it usually means that they had a lot of people in their life, and it's hard to get away from this if you're a guy, particularly if you are older and grew up in a different time. That was just a notion that was around in the culture, on TV and movies, in books, in art, that women are these, they're this weird human that's way over here, and they have weird emotions. They don't make any sense, and there's really no sense trying to get to know them. When I was growing up, and occasionally I'll hear this notion again, but I remember hearing it a lot when I was growing up, and I feel like when I was a kid, it didn't make any sense to me either, but it was this notion that men would say things like, women they're trying to be respectful, and they will say, women, they're this glory. They'll put them on a pedestal, and I'm not saying anything that other, cultural analysts won't point out in more detail and more eloquently. But there's this simultaneous edification of women as these like gods, or these very special, fragile creatures that are, very much a part of our desire as heterosexual men, but also these children that are complete idiots and have no idea how the world works, and they couldn't possibly be president. I mean, when I was a kid, Ferraro ran as vice president with Mondale in '84, I believe, and there was a lot. I was 13 at the time, but I was old enough to hear talk and watch TV, and there were totally respected individuals talking about how we couldn't possibly elect Mondale as a man who had a vice president as a woman, because what if Mondale is incapacitated or dies and a woman becomes president? I mean, because this is in the middle of the Cold War, like at the height of the threat that was largely, you could argue, manufactured at that point by Reagan and others. But I mean, it was a real threat, no joke. I mean, nuclear holocaust was a button press away, and there was a lot of fear about it. And so people were like, well, we can't have a woman be in charge because, what if she's on her period? I mean, now you would say something like that and it'd be a joke, right? It'd be like a character on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia would say that, and everyone would be in on the joke of just how stupid that is. But that was the mainstream point of view in the 80s. I just want to say that. So, and in 2022, we have not extracted ourselves from that culture. It was just more overt back then. It was more mainstream and overt. But of course, all those ideas have now become more overtly in the minorities. There's still a lot of people that will say such things, maybe behind closed doors or on Parler or something, or 4chan. But all those ideas are still inside of us. They just kind of morphed into something else, into, oh, women are crazy, Women, men are, and I'll hear people of all genders talk along these lines, that I'll hear women say, I'd rather be friends with a guy because they're so much more level-headed. Men are just, they're less catty and they're less competitive. And I'm just like, do you know men? Now, I'm happy for you that you've found friends who, regardless of gender, happen to be good friends for you. And maybe you just kind of like a guy's vibe. There's nothing wrong with that. But to say that, men are more stable emotionally or something, or that they're not competitive. Maybe they're not competitive with you because you don't compete with them in the masculine way. And so, I don't know. But anyway, so that's where it comes from, I'm imagining. There's, women are crazy. And so then that lends itself to this hypothesis. I'm really trying to figure out what's happening behind the scenes, because on the surface, it's a complete train wreck. When I saw those texts, I was like, oh, there's warmth. So could be this vast relationship behind the scenes that's happening, and we're seeing little glimpses of it on text. We could also be seeing evidence of, or red flags of, what he's doing to her behind the scenes. Is he engaging in this misogyny? Is the arrangement in their relationship, the way that she's like, look, you're the man, you're going to pay me money, you're going to buy everything for me. And then we're like, oh, no, George. But maybe he absolutely is like, well, yeah, I signed up for this. This is what I want. This is the way I see women. I see them as lesser and dependent. And this is the kind of relationship I want. I tried dating American women who are feminists and have their own jobs, and they don't need me or my money. They're not impressed with that kind of stuff. I want a woman who is into that sort of thing because that's what I want. And so, is that what we're seeing?
I don't have much time left on our fiancé visa. And Anfisa seems so unhappy that she's even threatened to go home. I feel like I just need some time to clear my head and work out what I'm gonna do next.
This guy is a Reddit meme. I mean, I don't know what subreddit I subscribe to, but it often will post pictures like this, where some dirtbag parks what they think is a super awesome, impressive car in such a way that it takes up 2 spots because they're so entitled that they think it's okay to do that, and that no one else can. But these other cars, no one, but my car is special. And so I get 2 spaces. And what I have to say, if I had a friend that was like this, I'd say, well, maybe don't drive that car. If you have a nice car that you don't want people to ding with their door, okay, I get it. You don't get to break the rules of society by taking up 2 spots. You don't get to go, half a mile an hour over speed bumps and make everyone else. I mean, if I had a car like that and I was into that sort of thing, I would avoid any street that had a speed, because I'd be mortified to especially with a car like that. If you had a junker and it was falling apart and you were going real slow over the speed bumps because you're afraid your whole car is going to just fall apart like cartoon style, I would not be upset at that. I'd be like, well, you got to do what you got to do. It's not your choice. But you chose a car like this. So what are you doing? You chose a car and you was, yes, not only is this car signaling what I want it to signal, but I'm also going to take up 2 parking spots. And in these posts online, we never get to meet the individual. Well, now we have. Now a word from our sponsor, BetterHelp. Use the link below or the promo code Kirk because that really helps us out. Let's talk about burnout. Signs of burnout include difficulty concentrating, no motivation, irritability. You know, are you working too much? Not taking enough time for yourself? Often, burnout will just creep up on us, and before long, we've had months, if not years, of being worn thin, you know? Well, that's where therapy comes in. I remember when I was getting burnt out in graduate school, having a therapist to talk to once a week was a lifesaver. And you often hear me saying that BetterHelp can be a really convenient option for getting therapy. Also, online therapy has been demonstrated by empirical research to be just as effective as in-person therapy. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can get matched with a therapist in under 48 hours. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/Kirk. That's betterhelp.com/Kirk. Get the help you need. You deserve it. Wow. 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 She keyed his car. Idiot. I mean, you know, with Angela, at least you could argue it's like impulsive and in the moment. Like, I don't think Angela would never do something like this. And that is saying something, is it not? Can I imagine any other person doing something like this? Any other adult? I don't know if I must have had a client, I guess, that might have been capable of this kind of distortion of, all right, well, let's get clinical. So I won't go into detail because, of course, I have many, many times, so I'll just give the highlights. When we are relationally traumatized, we have deep wounds, and we're very prone to just overwhelming pain. We also regress maybe somewhat permanently to an earlier age where we don't have a lot of empathy and we're very selfish. And then when we get hurt and someone pokes us in that relational wound and we have just overwhelming pain, and it's not like some intellectual experience, it's the same painful feeling and emotional center as being stabbed in the stomach, and you feel very angry in response because how dare you treat me that way, and you will feel very righteous in getting revenge, or at least fantasizing about it. And if you were modeled behavior that was very vengeful and hostile and harmful, then, you know, that's an option available to you. So I'll say that.
What the Well, Anfisa keyed my car. She keyed idiot into the driver's side door. I
mean, there's a joke in here somewhere about taking up 2 parking spots, but I'd feel like that would be too mean. So if you have one, feel free to use it. Type it in the comment section. I feel like some of you are good at coming up with stuff like that.
Ultimately thinking of proposing today. This is not how I pictured it. Now, I just want this nightmare to be over.
Yeah, I mean, imagine staying in the relationship past this point. You're either a victim of abuse or you have a very twisted idea of what sort of relationship you want to be in, and that you privilege things like her beauty in terms of the way he sees it, or you like the fact that she is beholden to you and focused on money because you're very focused. Like, yeah, I mean, just imagine if you're dating someone and they key your car for probably no good reason. Now, there's a possibility that behind the scenes there's an absolute understandable reason. I can't imagine what that would be. And we're just not seeing it because it's not in the edit.
It's a little bit under $10,000. It's more than enough to buy her the ticket home.
Wait, so you're just going to give her $10,000 in cash and say, okay, go home? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that would cover a plane ticket. I guess first class. Maybe it wouldn't cover a first class ticket. I don't know. So is this some sort of attempt at like, look what you're, giving up, baby. Look at all this cash I have, or trying to suck her back in with a lot of cash because he knows what language she speaks. I don't know.
You have issues.
You have issues.
We decided it was best for the both of us if Anfisa went home.
How do you feel about going home?
I don't want to talk about it.
Hey, so are you planning to go home?
I'm gonna buy the ticket and she's gonna go home.
What the you doing? Can we go?
It's really causing.
Can we go now?
Okay, on one hand, it's yelling and screaming and you must obey me. On the other hand, it's, I think, I don't want to be on camera right now. This is a hard time for me. Can we just leave? Because you could imagine the producers being like, hey, just hold on here, you're kind of under contract, so I'm going to pressure you to stay here during one of the most worst moments of your life. So, I could see either or both. All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.